Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Rise and Thrive with Dr. J. Nicole. On this podcast, we are talking all things faith, wellness, and empowerment. And we are focused on rising in faith and thriving in purpose. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Mr. George Rice III. Some of you may know him as Coach Rice. Some of y'all may know him as Chief. You may know him from his work as a consultant, as a speaker, maybe even as a counselor. He has more than 20 years of experience in education, and he's impacting many lives. He's worked in the public sector as well as public schools, nonprofits, higher ed. He's been a little bit of everywhere, touching and changing lives. And he's also an author, right? He has a passion for college students and helping teams, whether they're athletic or even professional, to be able to improve their team chemistry and their productivity. So please join me in welcoming Coach Rice.
Great morning, Dr. J. Nicole. Thanks so much for having me on. It's a pleasure. It's an honor. Let me just give you your soil, not your flowers. This is
Okay.
something that you have manifested. We've known each other about a year, and I'm just proud of your evolution, your obedience to the Creator, and even the ancestors as they visit us in their certain ways. And so I'm just super I'm honored and humbled by your invitation. And I'm looking forward to having a rich discussion with you today.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And I love that you said soil because I do talk with people about the difference between like dirt and soil. And the thing about flowers, although they are very beautiful, by the time we get them, they're already dead. So, not to say, and I don't want the florists mad at me because I still like my flowers, and anybody want to send them, I'm gonna receive them, right? But soil is much more, it's nutrient rich, and this is where we can grow. This is where we can thrive. So, thank you for that, and I love your choice of language. And yes, we did meet, not quite a year ago, but it hasn't been that long, but it feels like a while. But that's what happens when good people connect, right? Like you're a friend of a friend of a friend is how we met, right? So, but that's what happens when you have good people in your life who have other good people in their life who have other good people in their life. And then
Sure.
it becomes we're good people in each other's lives. So it breaks down the distance. So today we are talking about spiritual growth, right? And spiritual growth isn't just about like what we believe, but it's about how we cultivate our faith on a daily basis. And journaling, meditation, and prayer are ways in which we can do that. They're extremely powerful tools that can help us deepen our relationships with God. It can help bring clarity into our lives. It can also help us navigate different challenges and bring about peace as well as wisdom. But how do we build these consistent practices? And how can we make them more meaningful rather than just another thing on our to-do list? And we live in a society that very much values output. And some people measure their worth by how much they're doing, right? So, in this episode, we're going to explore these transformative practices and the power that they really have to um, change our lives to help us live in purpose and to get into alignment with God's plan for our life. So, am I calling you coach today? Am I calling you chief? What you want me to call you today? Trey, you got the third. I could call you so many things.
Look, I answer to all three, coach, chief, but my friends, my really, really good friends call me chief. My clients call me coach, but I tell now, probably about the last 4 or 5 years, listen, my nickname is chief. That's how people know me. But, it is what it is. But, as you said that about how we've been programmed and how
Mhm.
no matter how, when and where you grew up, what era you grew up in, there always has been an emphasis on doing.
Mhm.
Since we're in the spiritual realm, let's just get right to it.
Mhm.
We have songs, we have scripture, but if we talk about a song, one of the first songs I learned when I was a kid was God is.
Mhm.
And we're created in his image. And so a lot of times people think our value is based on what we do. But in the word, he also says, I am that I am that I am. Does he
Mhm.
not? He never says I do. Not so readily. We probably hear about who God is more than what God does. Now you can say who God is in your life, but the song says God is the joy and the strength of my life. He
Mhm.
moves now, of course. But what I'm saying is when we talk about spiritual practices, it's really a mindfulness because I believe the God that we serve, the divine love that we serve, is mindful
Mhm.
about who we are, not what
Mhm.
we do. Now, of course, there's a record of what we do, but I think he's more concerned about who we become and who we are
Okay.
and how we serve people. So, of course, when you think about God, there's a whole bunch of names that we could say. But
Right.
more than anything, God is love, and love is mindful when it's real.
Mm.
So, when you think about how you go about your daily routine,
Mhm.
or if you have a system, or whatever you want to call it, your ritual, it requires mindfulness.
Mhm.
And so when I think about who I am in spirit and truth on my worst days and my best days, I'm just reminded. I have an affirmation that I've been writing all this year, and it says, I face this day with humility, gratitude, and confidence, and
Mhm.
prepared and in rhythm. It's very, very
Mm.
simple. And so when you talk about the spiritual nature of that, it's just a time to be mindful. It's not, I'm writing that as a thing that is a practice,
Mhm.
but I'm also doing it in the hopes that I will just be versus do. So I'm saying I
Mhm.
face this day with gratitude, with humility first and foremost, because we didn't know we were going to wake up. Humility, like thank you, because
Mhm.
in my worst, you decide when I enter, you decide when I exit. So I'm
True.
humbled by the invitation to greet the day and face the day. Number two, I'm grateful that I have, at least as far as I know, I'm in my right mind.
Right.
I am able-bodied for the for the near future and the current present. And
You be
there are
alright as long
some
as you stay in the gym.
well, yeah. I mean, listen, it's one of those things in which we take for granted the day. We take for granted the ability. We take for
Mhm.
granted the gift. We take for granted all the things. And even on the days where I'm not in prayer and or meditation, I'm always saying, well, I thank you for a place to call work, a place to call home, a place to call
Mhm.
church. And again, that's just based out of mindfulness because
Mhm.
only we know the depth and breadth of who we really are when nobody's watching. And so when I think of who I would like to become, I think I am becoming who I intended to become in terms of not by what I do, by accolades or activity, but by that humility and gratitude. I trust and pray that I show up that way. Some people show up, and people you work with, go to church with, people show up angry. And again, that's fine. People show up in a bad mood. People show up
Mhm.
antisocial. Some people show up with an amazing amount of energy and joy, which is a beautiful thing. And that's why I say, I face this day with humility, gratitude, and confidence, prepared and in rhythm. And when I say I'm in rhythm, I'm not too high and I'm not too low. And every morning I take a temperature check of my own self and I say, what's your mood? Is it a smiley face? Is a middle of the road face? Is it a frown face? And so some days, yeah, I wake up and I'm like, I'm not in the greatest of mood in this moment, but I realize that moment, just like all seasons, don't last,
Mhm.
and I have control over my mood if I
Mhm.
choose. If I'm mindful enough, I have control over my mood. I don't have control over my life because we know who has control over our life, but I have control over my mood. So for me, it's an ode to gratitude for the Creator for giving us the opportunity and just being mindful. Like, look, brother, if this is the last day of your life, who did you talk to? Who
Mhm.
were you kind to? Who would you speak to? Who did you share your feelings and thoughts with?
Mhm.
Um, and what was it explained and communicated properly? Was it understood properly? So I'm just very mindful of how I approach everybody that I consider to be instrumental in my growth and development. And those who I know may depend on me to listen, not necessarily tell them anything, but
Mhm.
just allow me to, or they just want me and expect me to be for
Mhm.
whatever purpose that I need to fulfill for any given.
I love how you put in there with rhythm because when I heard rhythm, I heard flexibility, right? Because there's not just one rhythm. the rhythm is what the rhythm needs to be. So I got from that ease, right? Just going organically. We're not fighting the day, we're not forcing things. So that's what I heard when I heard rhythm, and I really like that part that's in there because I think sometimes we hold ourselves to a standard of best representing the best we've ever done, but that likely happened in ideal circumstances and all of that. So I love to hear that that freedom is in there. So first, let's talk about the power of prayer. The power of prayer and communicating with God and just like what that is, right? Like cuz we can prayer is so multifaceted like and I think even though most people the one of the first prayers they're learning is like the Lord's prayer or like blessing food, right? But talk to me about your understanding of prayer more as a conversation rather than a ritual.
For my grandfather, Lawrence Jacobs Sr., born on September 11th, 1911, transitioned on May 11th, 2011, who was a farmer.
Wow.
He and my grandmother were farmers in Huntsville, Alabama.
My people were farmers too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And when you talk about faith,
Yeah.
before technology, you
Mhm.
literally had to rely on every season to do what that season did.
Yeah.
And you had to plan accordingly. And you could try it without talking to the creator, but it helps a little bit if you do. And so my grandfather to this day
Mhm.
is the and again, I know he's my grandfather. Maybe it's a biased opinion. The thing I hold dearest, not just the lessons he taught me about being a stand-up guy and
Mhm.
just being a gentleman and doing the best you can and treating people right. The example he set of just talking. When
Yeah.
he would pray, it never came from here.
Mhm.
It came from his soul.
Mm.
It came from a place of, God, you've looked out for me. Look out for them. That's how I really learned that posture of humility, um, and that mentality of gratitude and
Okay.
humility. And so, just I realized, yeah, it was a conversation. So as our grandparents got older, the cousins, me and my sister, my cousins, we used to make fun of my grandmother and grandfather, not in front of them, but
Of
it was
course.
funny. After, as my grandfather's praying, my grandmother is whispering out loud. And she just so it was like a tennis match. So, as a kid, you kind of like,
Mhm.
but we learned I really and as a grandson of a farmer, a lot of people are upset when it's rainy for too long. I said, do y'all realize farmers are like, Lord, please let it rain. We need the
Yep.
sunshine, but we need that rain too. And so
Mhm.
I learned by the example of my grandparents. I grew up at Venice. They were at Venice. So if you know anything about Adventism, Friday night to Saturday night, sundown to sundown, that's the Sabbath. And so that they're like, get all of your stuff done before the sun goes down so you can truly rest. And so it was a story my sister told. There were times when my grandparents made sure that they were in rhythm. It's getting back to what we were
Mhm.
talking,
Mhm.
so that on Friday, all of their work was done and they were waiting. They were waiting and they were inviting the Sabbath in like, Lord, please give us this rest. This is our day. This is your day. We want to be obedient in our rest, not
Mm.
just in our work. And so
Mhm.
when I look at making that connection, I used to think it was just about having a certain place to pray or a certain prayer to pray. And now as I'm on my walk with the creator every morning, as consistently as I can walk. But even at times in my car, sometimes I'll drive to work and it's just silent. I may not say a word out loud. It's just kind of like, okay, that's my meditation time
Mhm.
with God, or just like allow me to be in rhythm. And so there are times I'm like, God, listen, I'm in a season, man. I know you see me. Like,
Yeah.
I know what I'm gonna do. You know what I'm gonna do. But God, I hope it comes out the way it's supposed to. Or God, why is this impacting me this way? Or, God, I'm upset with you.
Listen, and that's a listen, you
And a lot of
it's
people hear that, it'll hit a lot of people's ears wrong. But how dare you say that? Listen, God,
nope.
look, he already know I'm mad at him.
He already knows,
I'm
but
not mad at him in the
also
moment.
this is the most authentic relationship we can have. it's also the most secure relationship that we can have. He already knows your thoughts, he already
Yep.
knows your feelings, he is your father, but the difference between our earthly father and like our heavenly like caregivers or anyone we're in an intimate relationship, whether that's friendship, dating, marriage, or whatever, right? Like we have to have room to have those real conversations. And we can have that with God, but we're taught, especially with our caregivers, we don't question authority, right? And God is the authority. So, but it's like, no, we have to talk to him. Like he is both to be feared and loved and respected, to be revered and all of that. And it's not just one thing. And so I think that's a significant part and a real true marker of an intimate relationship with God is to be able to give him your honest, raw feelings and to be like, I'm not feeling you. So like that's so important because sometimes we do be beefing with God or we don't want to do what he asking us to do. I know one time I was like, God, you got me being weird, but Imma do it because I seek to serve you rather than man. I'm weird to man, but Imma be obedient to you, right? And guess what? It was fine. It was just in my head that I felt uncomfortable doing a thing.
Sure. Sure. I
Mhm.
mean, I know my mother is a lupus thriver.
Okay.
She was diagnosed with lupus when I was 2.
Wow.
She didn't have a flare up, a major flare up until 2 months before I graduated from college.
Okay.
And I was interviewing, of course, as all seniors are doing. I was going to get this job and because I just knew I was ready to work and make some money. I was tired of being a broke college student. But I'm thankful because in the moment I was like, God, why are you doing this now?
Mhm.
But I realized it brought me back to my hometown of Toledo, Ohio, 419 stand up, Glass City, we representing. But it took me back to my hometown because number one, it was family business. And I, for all the
Mhm.
years that my mother had sacrificed for me, gone to work sick, it was my turn to care for her. But in that same stroke of genius which God is,
Genius. Mhm.
he threw me into the ministry that I have never let go of, and I'm so grateful for because I believe had I gone and just chased the money, who knows? I wouldn't have been there to help care for my mom in her time of need. And as God will have it, like literally in 2003, I'll never forget. It's been like 22 years. Like, yeah, it was 22 years. She was officially, what they and when you have cancer, they say you're in remission. But then
Mhm.
with lupus, they say, you're in the clear for a certain amount of time.
Mhm.
Um, and it's interesting because, you know, eh, there were times I'm like, wow, why are you taking her through this? Give it to me. But in my mom getting sick, I go back home. I fall in love with a profession. I was
Mhm.
pulled to it. I was trying to run from it. And I was like, no, God was like, this is where I need and want you.
It's giving Jonah. It's giving Jonah a little bit because you was trying to do your thing. You was like, I'm graduating from Morehouse. I'm finna get this job, finna get this paper and running in the opposite direction. And
Yeah.
it sounds like in the context of this, right? Like your mom becoming sick and having that flare up, that was like the well that brought you home. And it like and
Without
and
question.
and you got into position.
Yeah. And here, I didn't even give you this.
Mm.
When they originally diagnosed her with lupus,
Mm.
when I was 2 years old, they gave her 6 months to live.
Oh, come on, testimony. So,
That's a
it
long
went from
6 months.
6 months to how many years
That
before
it's
and,
look,
like, to the flare up? So, from your the 6 months to live
I
to
was
the
2 years
flare
old
up to
from to now. And
you
I said, okay. So
okay.
again, I go back to my original statement. I face this day with humility,
Mhm,
gratitude, and confidence. Not
mhm,
necessarily confidence in myself,
mhm.
but in confidence who he is.
Yes, and what he can and will do. Okay. Listen, I'm here for it. So I heard a couple other things, right? Like so for some people they think prayer or it could be like a rigid thing or has to look a certain way. Like there are things in the Bible that tell us like going to a quiet place. We see a model where Jesus goes into silence sometimes too or out into the wilderness. to pray. So I guess there's different ways. There's also scriptures that says like kind of like go into your secret place, close the door or whatever where you're praying, right? And also to not be like the Pharisees and Sadducees who were like doing it outward for public recognition, right? So even as you're talking, I heard that you pray in different ways, right? Like you
Absolutely.
is going through that mantra, that acknowledgement and gratitude for God waking you up in the morning, formal prayer, conversations that are happening in the car as you're going about your day. Is there anything else like you wanted to say specifically about that? And how you like, so it came from your grandparents, right? But like, how did you maintain that? Like, think about it. You're out of the house in college, right? In Atlanta is the backdrop, right? Of being a college student. How did you maintain these practices through different stages of your life?
Well, I didn't. I'll be honest with
Okay.
you.
Mhm. Mhm.
Un It seemed like I would only pray when things were looking like they were going wrong.
Yep.
Freshman year, 2 days, 3 days before Thanksgiving, Leon Anderson III, who was from, Jackson, Mississippi, was like, "Yo, man, we were all, because of course, all of us had that boo at home. We thought we was gonna be together forever, forever, ever, forever, ever.
That
We was
high
like, 'Yo,
school
man,
sweetheart,
you
that
yo,
young
man,
love.
I can't wait to get back to my girl, man. I can't wait to have some of my mama's food. I can't wait to see the homies, hug my granny's neck, so on and so forth.'
Mhm.
So we're like, okay, look, let's get it popping. So okay, well, look, let's see if we can get somebody to go get some drink for us, right? Boom.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, well, hold tight, man. So I go upstairs to see if the homies wanted something to drink. So I get sidetracked.
Mhm.
They up there playing spades, talking mess, whatever, whatever.
Mhm.
About 30 minutes goes by. I'm
Yeah.
on the second floor of Huber Hall. Shout out to Huber Hall. I go back downstairs to the first floor, which is where my dorm room was, but Leon stayed on second floor.
Okay.
Only find out Leon had gotten shot and killed. He didn't wait for me. He went to the store.
Whoa.
And it just so happens that there was a guy who had been on a killing spree. So I guess he had murdered 2 or 3 people up in the people that used to be called Ashby Street. It is now called Joseph P. Lowry Boulevard. A guy, I guess he just pulled out a firearm, and Leon ran. He pulled
Yeah.
out a 357 Magnum, shot him once in his back. Well, shot him twice in his back.
Mm.
So the bullet came from the back throughout it, pulled out, came through his chest,
Mm.
and
Mm.
he
Mm.
ran into the street because he was running for cover, and he was hit by a car. So I mean, either way, to
My
add insult to
goodness.
injury, he was hit by a car.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I just was like,
If that's heavy.
I could have very easily been the person that Leon was telling the story about.
Or you could have been with Leon and it would have been both of you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I,
Mhm.
so in that moment, I was like, okay, God takes care of fools and babies. Clearly, I don't have a pacifier in my mouth. But I realized that some things, all things that God does, we can question it as much as we want to.
Mhm.
But for some reason, there was a lesson that somebody had to learn.
Or
Was it me?
somebody's.
Was it me? Well, I know I learned it. And in that moment, I
Mhm.
realized, being in the Morehouse Brotherhood, I was already in, the place, like literally, where it's the only place in America you can find 2,501 black men on the same mission, and ain't nobody scrapping and fighting and killing each other and selling each other drugs. At least
Mm.
not outward, right? And here I am, and I lost my brother because I was not my brother's keeper.
I hear you blaming yourself. Your brother
No,
made
no,
it.
no. It's no. In the moment, yes, I did.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I blame myself, but at the same time, I realized the lesson was, Chief, it is your job to be a brother to whomever.
Okay.
That's a hard lesson to have to learn, but it's a lesson all the same. And so now
Mhm.
it brings me right back to the job I do, the work I do now with black and brown men at Montgomery College. It's like, there's a reason that I cherish my inner circle. There's a reason I cherish brothers like Dewan, who I met you through.
Right.
Just genuine brothers that I like. If I meet a brother that's genuine, we vibe like, bro, let's stay in touch. Is anything I can do to help you and
Mhm.
yours? Say it. I would, if I can't do it, I'll find somebody else who can. And so I just really, that was the only lesson I really need to be a servant and to be a brother and be a person of your word. Like, bro, you said you was coming right back and you didn't.
You okay. I hear you, and I really do hear you. I'm not gonna bill you for this, okay?
Please
Um,
don't.
I hear you and I don't. So you told him something and you said it early. He made a choice to not wait. I would
Yes.
imagine by this point for you to call him your brother and the relationship y'all had, he knew that you would keep your word. He made a
Yes.
choice. You didn't do anything wrong. You came
Great.
back. That's how you know. You went back. Maybe you got a little sidetracked by them playing spades, but you told
Absolutely.
them you were coming back. So
Absolutely.
I I just want to make sure if no one's ever said that to you, that I said it, I heard it, it wasn't your fault.
No, I don't carry it as such, but
Okay.
I realize the responsibility that I have to be a brother.
Okay.
That
So it just
to me,
made it
that's the
it
lesson I've always learned.
highlighted it more.
Yeah. And so a lot of
Okay.
people, like even in my LinkedIn description, I say convener. I'm not
Mhm.
necessarily I'm a connector, but I'm more of a convener.
Mhm.
I'm known for introducing people, getting people in the right atmosphere to say,
Mhm.
okay, look, just good people. Like that's how I met you, right?
Mhm.
Dewan is another connector and convener. I mean, Dewan is another connector and convener. He was like, no, come on.
I mean, it was the same way. I went to go visit my friends. Okay, so there's a whole lot of connections and convening that happen, right? So my boy Tourget, we did our masters together at University of Arkansas in higher ed, and that's so funny that you and I never met when I was in higher ed. That we met after I left higher ed, right?
Right.
So me and him in the same program, we share the same last name. That people thought we were either related or married, and it was hilarious. We were like, we don't even know each other, but went to visit him and his wife, she also works in higher ed. So I was able to witness their like love story. They met at one of the conferences. I can't remember if it was NASPA, placement exchange or whatever, but it was so cute. And, so have my own relationship with her too, talk to her more than him now, most of the times, but
That's
she
okay.
knows Dewan, so she's from Chicago, went to DePaul, and had, like, the whole Chicago connection, met through the field, and then she's like, "Oh, well, some of my friends are here from a conference," so it was, Dewan and Alandis, and so we all met up at this food hall in Charlotte, and they were like, "Hey, well, we're coming to DC for his birthday." Oh, Dewan's brother was there too.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Good dude.
so yeah, yeah, yeah. And so they're like, "We're gonna be in DC. We're coming for Broccoli City." So we're like, "Bet, hit us up. We'll pull up or whatever." And sure enough, they follow through. Cause you know, people say that and then it never happens. It'd just be like, "Oh yeah." And so no, we spent the whole day with y'all. Like I really thought we were just gonna come, go to brunch. Next thing you know, we had karaoke. Yeah, people was hungry again, so then we went to Stance, and if you're in the DMV, you know what we talking about.
Oh, goodness.
And then we finally shut it down, but easily folks coulda kept going,
For sure.
easily, but it was
Absolutely.
just like it was just a good day, and what I will say that I appreciated, it was me and my homegirl, and we were with a crew of all men. It was like like 8 of y'all.
By 8 of us. Yep.
And the whole time, I felt so safe, I felt so covered, and some people, they would just feel uncomfortable just being around that many men, but y'all were just yeah, like I said, I just felt safe, I felt covered, and it was a great feeling,
Well, thank you.
and so I
Like I said, I
appreciate
think
that.
that's probably one of the greatest compliments I've ever gotten from a woman
Mhm.
when you said, just think, and again, let's speak freely. You were like, you're like, Chief, thanks for, it's just good to be around, you know, like safe masculinity,
Yes,
like for
safe
real.
masculine energy, yes.
And yeah, that's what you said, safe
Mhm,
masculine energy. I was like, no, I said, listen, no, thank you for acknowledging it. Thank you for sharing it. But I think, of course, the creator
mhm.
for finding out robbery for us to conduct ourselves as gentlemen
Yes.
in every form and fashion. Like, of course, we hanging out, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, man, I mean, and again, good energy recognizes good energy. So here
True.
we are.
True. True, 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 true. Okay, anything else on prayer before we jump into journaling?
Yeah, I think I'll say this. My thing with prayer is even for people who think they don't have time,
How can we not have time? But okay.
Even for the people that feel like they do not have time, just imagine saying that you don't have time with the person that provides the time that we actually have.
Mm.
I say, even if I'm running late, I oversleep, I make sure no matter what I do, it's have your way.
Come on, surrender.
Jesus interceded to the Father.
Mhm.
Amen.
Amen.
In other words, there's too many things right now to call by name. Lord, have your way.
Yeah, there's an acknowledgement.
Have your way.
Yeah.
I know I'm being mindful of you. Lord, have your way.
Mhm.
Lord,
Yeah.
it's not what you allow me to do today. Lord, allow me to be. Allow me to be quiet
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
listen more than I talk. Lord, allow me to be in a space as I work with men and help them evolve, that I never raise my voice. I started raising my voice in my
I was gonna
household
say, but
about 10
depending,
years.
sometimes it's appropriate, right? But some people they use that too much. But you set the tone, and I love that you recognize that, and they be like, "Chief don't raise his voice," or "Coach don't
No,
raise his voice."
no.
Mhm.
If I raise my voice, it's in practice, and of course, so they can hear me. But in terms of me yelling at players, oh, I stopped that. I stopped that after during my first year of coaching. Really quick story. I don't profess to hear voices. End of my first no, end of my first season, crosstown rivalry. Gym is packed, sweaty, funky, nasty. We are losing by 15. We can't throw a P in the C, right? So I take a timeout and I'm yelling.
Can't hold on. That was so country. We can't
Can't
throw
throw a
a
P in the
pea in the
C.
sea?
I'm
I've
from the
never heard
Midwest.
that. Listen, and I be telling people how country my family is, and you took it up a notch. My people are from Jackson and from, like, George from Atlanta, right? Like, from Colley Park,
So,
but
so okay, that's where the Huntsville, Alabama comes out in me. But as a basketball coach, you say they couldn't throw a P in the C. In other words, you got to be terrible not to be able to throw something in the water and it don't touch the
oh,
surface.
I understood it, but I said, "Oh, that's country. That's
So
giving you don't believe fat meat greasy," and I'm like, remember the first time I heard that. I digress. We have a way of
so
speaking that's so
we really
different,
do.
but go
And
ahead.
so I'm yelling and I'm like, what are we doing? And I'm like, and literally, like I always pull my team away from the stands because
Okay.
what we're talking about is family business.
Okay.
So my team is in a half circle around me, and my assistant coach is to my right, and my players are in front of me. And all of a sudden, I heard a voice said, "Talk to them,"
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and I stopped, like in the middle of my rant. I said, "And
Huh?
I literally, like Gene, Doc, it's loud. My
No.
assistant coach is there. Nobody else is behind me.
Listen, you don't gotta
I
explain
turned
it to
around
me. Uh-huh.
and I said, and literally this quiet at this volume. I said, "All right, fellas, here's what we're gonna do. You sub in for him. You sub in for him. This is
Uh-huh.
what we're in on a make. This is what we're in on a miss. 1, 2, 3, dominate." These dudes go on a 13-2 run.
Mm. Mm.
Now we end up losing by 3 points. But
Y'all closed that gap.
what I do realize is that energy is never created nor destroyed. It's transferred from one party to the next. So if I'm
Yes.
yelling and I'm rattled, when they hit the floor, they gonna be rattled. Never in the history of my coaching career have I ever put the ball in the basket and it counted towards my team. So if my energy is nervous and anxious, so is theirs.
Yep.
If I'm and what I realized with the young men that I've worked with, not a lot of people acknowledged their presence. And what I realized was I wasn't communicating, I was corresponding. And in that moment, when I heard him say, talk to them, I had an opportunity to
Uh-huh.
connect with them. And so people are like, well, what does it mean to coach? It means to connect. And so once I did that, the game got easier to teach. Mistakes got easier to correct. Fundamentals got easier to model. And community got easier to scale.
Okay.
Because even after guys played for me, they come back. They checking on my family. They remember when my kids were little, man. How old are your kids now?
Yeah.
Like I ran it when I was home 2 weekends ago. I literally had just spoken his name. He just finished his first year as a high school coach in Toledo. and he's my frat brother too. I ended up
Okay.
running into him, and I'm like, "Bro," I said, "I was just talking about you." I said, "Do I have the right number?" But I literally owe him a call this afternoon.
Mhm.
So that in terms of knowing, being mindful of the presence, like I said, when it happened to me, I was like,
So what you're in case listeners it's not clear, you heard the voice of God.
"Absolutely."
And you're also describing one of the benefits of being in an intimate relationship with God. He speaks to you.
And honestly, one of the things that we did
Mhm.
as a team before and after
Mhm.
was we prayed. When
Mhm.
we never prayed for a victory, we
Mhm.
simply prayed for sportsmanship, us to recall to join ourselves as a team, that nobody from our team or other team ever got hurt.
Mhm.
And I remember after I won my first city championship, we stood in it after the trophy presentation, we stood there and prayed.
Yeah.
And people around was like, yo, I had never seen anything like that before. And I ain't coaching no Catholic school. I coach at a public school.
Mhm.
Some young men that played for me had never dressed up to go to church. I was like, no, we pre-games, we're shirt and tie, fellas.
Yeah.
We prayed before games. Like, and it was just, again, I knew in that moment that was the ministry I was meant to be in for as long as I
Understood.
wanted to be.
Okay. One last thing in this area. What is like one tip or recommendation that you would give our listeners and viewers to develop and or maintain a heartfelt prayer life with consistency?
As my grandparents were farmers, every relationship we have requires the same elements: water, sunlight, and love.
Mhm.
So water comes in whatever form you feel it needs to come in. That's a source. Sunlight is energy and or love. Treat it as if you don't nurture it, it could literally die at any moment.
Mhm.
Because we do what we do most. My grandfather was a phenomenal prayer warrior because he did it more often than not.
Yep. It's like a muscle.
Muslims pray 5 times a day. Jews pray 3 times a day.
Mhm.
And nobody's in competition, but what I'm saying is it becomes who you are, not what you do.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I say treat it as if it's a plant. Now, one thing I'm doing to stretch myself, I used to be a plant murderer.
Not
I am
not the grandson of the farmer murdering the plant.
well, I had it. Well, I used to. Then I got a
Right.
garden, and once I got the garden, I realized, okay, bruh, it's not just planting and water. It's a lot of other preparation, but it's a mindfulness of, oh, I gotta attend to my
Mhm.
crop. Like he never has a reminder to attend to us. So why do we need a reminder
Okay. Okay. It's so much in there. Because I can
to
get
commune
going.
with him?
Okay. So we're going to transition now into journaling as a
Absolutely.
tool for reflection and revelation. And y'all, this is one of those things that has completely transformed my life. I've journaled in the past and I would treat journaling kind of like how you described prayer, like earlier in life, where I would just journal when things got really, really bad, right? Versus just consistently journaling. And it was helpful during those times because it helped me process feelings, get things out. I used to be more creative and I would write poetry and things like that sometimes to process. Over the summer, I wow. I was going through this whole transformation with God and I knew it was happening and I could see that he was answering my prayers and giving me clarity and even the humility and vulnerability to like talk to him, right? And the transformation was so like intense that I was like, "Yeah, I feel like I need to be rebaptized," right? And, I talked to my minister about it, and he was essentially saying, like, "Jeannie, you don't need to be rebaptized, like, Jesus dying on the cross was one time was enough." Excuse me. Excuse me, and I'm like, "You're right, we not gonna disrespect Jesus and that sacrifice, he already paid the cost," but, like, I knew I was changing, but I felt like I needed something to match it, right? And so he was like, "Jeannie, all you have to do is repent," right? And so he was like, "You could do that publicly, you could do that privately." I was like, "Okay, bet." So then I came up into my apartment. I think I might have put on that Deep Focus playlist you gave me, or I listened to it afterwards, but I remember it was in the same day I listened to that for the first time. I put it on and I just took out my journal because I had started writing some, but this just really took it to the next level. And I wrote, "Dear God," and I start writing a letter of repentance, a letter of apology to God. And that turned into like 6 or 8 pages. I'd have to go back and look. And man, when I tell you things start clicking and shifting and moving that much more quickly, and I would do it every day, like, I could feel like I was dog tired, and I'm like, "I'm going to at least write, 'Thank you for this day,' express some gratitude." Next thing I know, I've written 4 pages. And so, I write pretty much every day. I travel, I take a journal with me. Um, but when I tell you it's been so transformative, so, like, I really wanna hear what it has done for you and how you've done it as a practice, where for me, it was, I thought it was one thing and it just turns into like a way of living for me. But yeah, tell me about your experience
I
with
think
it.
what we do in our own in our own finite wisdom
Mhm,
or infinite wisdom is it's easy to get caught up in what we do.
mhm,
And again, this is no strike against anybody who doesn't journal. This is
mhm.
a personal story about how it helps me.
Yeah.
Last night I was at Morgan State University. Shout out to the Bears of Morgan State. Thank y'all for having me. We were talking about time and energy management. And I told them there are a couple of things that we go through in any given season. It's the 3 R's, which is recognition, relationship, and
Mhm.
reintroduction. So if you
Okay.
think about anytime you've been in a scenario, that those are the 3 R's, not reading, writing, and arithmetic, as our grandparents told us, because our grandparents told us and parents told us wrong. I was like, look, only one of them starts with an R. But anyway, I digress. Y'all will catch that at the red light because arithmetic starts
I
with an A.
got
And
it.
last time I checked, writing
Writing
starts
starts
with
with a
a W.
W.
So, but I also told them there are 3 M's, and this is what I'm really, really proud of myself for doing. The first M is measure. You want to change things. Nothing changes without measuring. So if you have a problem with your car, before they work on it, they have to measure. Before you get that fly haircut that you got, Dr. J. Nicole, they have to measure.
Listen,
Before you fit into
my
that,
barber's the episode before you. Yeah, you right.
okay,
It's a skill.
before you fit into a suit, you have to know the
Measurement.
measurements. Before you try, you have to know the measurements. And when we measure, we have an opportunity to create momentum. But
Okay.
that's not the second M.
Oh,
The second M is mastery.
okay.
We can't master anything we haven't measured. So
Right.
my goal was to make sure that I got more quality rest in the last 2 years. So this year, I'm focused on measuring and mastering when I go to bed. Like, bruh, get your butt in the bed. Like, stop playing.
Mhm.
You're already an early worm. Get be prepared. Get in the bed so you can have the quality rest not so you can be who you need to be
Yeah,
on
not
any
so you
given
can
day,
do.
right? So now there's the measurement phase. So again, entire 2025, I've been writing. This is what I'm writing every day. My word for this year is single tasking.
Uh. So it's 2 words, but I'm with you. Or you did you give it a little
It's hyphenated.
uh-huh.
Single tasking.
Uh-huh.
My phrase for the year is part of the process. And every day
Mm,
I measure what I call my core four: mind, health, balance, and wealth with 3 checks. 3 checks means excellent. 2 checks means average. 1 check means terrible or poor.
I
And I'm
like it.
honest with myself every day. So I assess myself every day. In
Yes, and it's
addition to that, if I can show you
accountability.
on the camera, I also put up there my mood. My
Mhm.
AM mood is a smiley face, regular face, frown face,
I
right?
need you to put some more faces in between those though, because it's a whole lot.
Well, I mean, it's
I
either
got you. I love it. You're mood
it's either
tracking is what I call it with my clients. You're mood tracking.
exactly.
Mhm.
And then I have what is required, what is the return, and what is the reward for myself today,
Required, return, reward.
and
You
the
you do
reward.
these threes.
Well, the
which is also
every
my line number, by the way.
is it really?
Yeah.
I'm the 3rd? Okay, alright, so it was meant to be. So, what's funny is that our brain remembers things best in threes. And so,
Mm,
what I do is make sure that I check in with myself, the things that are required, the things that I'll do that have a return.
mhm.
Sometimes the things on my return list are, "Yo, who do I need to call or leave a voice message for?" Like, the other morning, I just literally my sister is literally my best friend, and so
Love that.
she's 3 years older than me. Shout out to my big sis. So I just realized, yo, normally me, her, and my mom text almost every day, but I realized I hadn't heard her voice, and I was like, yo, let me holler at my sister just on her way to. I know she's on her way. I said, hey, my nickname for her is Luda. All right, so Luda, I know you're on the way to work, but we call each other Luda, but that's a whole inside joke. But anyway, um, I was
Okay.
like, I hadn't heard her voice, but that was a return on that.
Mhm.
And the reward. So my reward today is the last 90 because I have a rule. The first 90 minutes of my day belong to me. Period.
Love that. So
Nobody can
important.
interrupt it.
Mhm.
Nobody from the time I get up, from the time I wake up and look at my phone, the first 90 minutes belong to me. I don't talk to anybody. I barely look at my phone.
And this is
I mean,
another
I'm not on
reason why you need that intentional rest so you can rise early before people can even ask things of you.
exactly. But what
Mhm.
I'm also measuring too, and it's happening already, Doc. My screen time.
Mm.
My screen time last week was 4 hours and 23 minutes per day. No, 4 hours and 31 minutes per day.
Mhm.
The week before that, it was 6 hours and 31 minutes. The week before that, it was 8 no, the week before that, it was less than that. It was 2 hours but I was on vacation. So I was like,
Yeah,
Um,
you just taking
I
a couple
was on
pics and
vacation,
that's about
2
it.
hours. But before March, it was probably upwards of 8 to 9 hours. I was like, "Bro, that's too much." So now,
How did
once I
never I'll ask
measure,
later. Yeah. I was
right?
like, how
Once
did
I
you arrive
measure
at that being too much?
well, for me, it was too much. For the
Okay.
things that I would like to do and the
Okay.
things that I wanna give more of my energy to, and I
Got it.
need to give more of my energy to, I gotta get off my phone.
Okay. Because you could do a lot of tools. There's a lot of things you can get done on your phone. Because some people,
Sure,
they're like, it's just being on the phone. For me, I believe it's what you're doing on the phone and how it
sure.
aligns to those, purpose and what you're
Right.
doing. Yeah.
And until I've gotten those things done, but what I'm saying in terms of getting back to your original question,
Yes.
what journaling has allowed me to do every day is literally measure
Mm-hmm.
where I am so that I can master what I
Huh.
need to start doing or what I need to stop doing.
Mm-hmm.
The last M is manifest.
Okay.
So you
Measure,
can't manifest,
mastery,
right.
manifest.
So
Okay.
we can't manifest what we don't master, and we can't master what we haven't measured.
Mm.
So it helps me on any given day to remember what kind of mood am I in? How am I really feeling? So when I ask people I don't ask people more specifically, I don't ask black men how they doing anymore. I stopped that
I
about 3
stopped
years
doing
ago.
the same thing
I
too.
said,
Yeah.
how you feeling, black man? Hey bro, I'm tired. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a student, shout out to a former student of mine. She graduated from GW in 2017. She recently lost her father.
Mm.
And so I was like, hey, sis, I'm just checking in on you. How are you feeling? She was like, I am.
Mm.
I
That's
was like,
rich.
I was like,
That's
say less.
yeah.
I was like, say less. I appreciate your authenticity.
'Cause
I
and just
am.
in case listeners and viewers aren't catching that, right? Sometimes for people, a way for them to even recognize their humanity is because they can feel things. Because some people go through it so deep that they're so numb that they're disconnected. They're dissociated from themselves experience. They're so detached. So for her to say, I am, man, that to me, I heard a whole lot more, even though, like you said, say less. Understood.
And now, for some people, when I hear brothers, especially when I'm on the phone with my inner circle,
Mhm.
brothers that say stuff, I'll be like, say more.
Mhm, mhm. Tell me more. Mhm.
If you got the time, I got the ears.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, say more. Because I felt your energy there, like, bruh, say more. I feel like if you don't get it
Mhm,
out, I won't understand it. But
mhm.
moreover, it could possibly carry over into the next person you come in contact with. I'd rather
Absolutely.
you get it out while we're in community,
Mhm.
and that way you don't transfer it into other places. I do some work with I've done some work with Montgomery County Police,
Mhm.
and I asked them the question. I said, since and this is right after they've just taken their oath. They're literally when we're finished with them that very next day, they start their first day.
Yeah,
And I say to them, I said, well, let me ask y'all a question. I don't care where y'all grew up. Who were you when the cops showed up? And I said, just remember that when you show up as the cops. I said, because you're going to see some of the most horrific things where there are
yeah,
going to be some times you're going to have to show people a dark side of yourself in order to maintain order and peace and be on your post and make sure everything is in rhythm.
yeah.
The very next place you go to may be somebody who's been in a car accident and they are shaken up.
They gotta
Or
shift a lot.
yeah. So I'm always very mindful, especially when brothers are sharing how they feel. I'm like, brother, I'm listening. I ask you how you feel because I got time if you need it.
Yeah.
And I think what happens because we're so separated by devices that are meant to help us, we don't leverage them. We don't leverage our in person energy the way we should.
Mhm.
And that's what it was intended for. And getting back to how it relates to helping us in our spiritual walk, our relationship with God is the most intimate one we've ever had the opportunity to embark on and invest in.
But some people never tap in, or they weren't in a position like you were to have it modeled by your grandfather, where maybe they were born into darkness, right? Where people had turned away. And some people they have to rediscover it, right? Because we're born, we're mind, body, and spirit, right? Like that's in us. God is in us. But if that's not cultivated, if it's not nurtured, if it's not water, if it's not getting the sun, if it's not getting all of that, then what, right? Like we have to understand people are in different stages of this journey, or like we might be on the same track, but we don't start at the same point.
Absolutely not. And it's the intimacy that I feel that has not been modeled.
Mhm. Mhm.
And what happens is if it's not modeled, people don't want to begin to understand what it means to be intimate with the creator.
Or they
And
don't know
so why
how.
a lot of people can't commit to this
Yeah,
is
it's
because
starting
it
somewhere.
requires you to be a beginner. And people are like, what's your advice for
Oh,
people? I was like, no, be okay with being a beginner.
I love that. I
Because
love
guess
that.
what? Today is what? March 26th, 2025.
Mhm.
We both began.
And did.
Tomorrow, God willing, we
Mhm.
will begin again.
Mhm.
So it's not success or failure that people fear, it's maintenance.
What really maintenance is the determination between success and failure too. I'm with you. I'm
So
tracking.
we could easily go from 3 to 5 M's: measure, momentum,
Uh-huh. Mastery.
mastery,
Manif
manifestation, maintenance,
Maintenance
or
could go before and after that. But it's
doesn't
still
matter.
in it. I think you gotta update them, because not saying those other M's, I feel like we're missing some of the things that are not gonna allow the people to be as successful, right? Because
Very true.
you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of steps in there, and sometimes people tell you what to do, but not the how. And these other M's are the hows. They are the
Sure.
bridges between your core M's. You're welcome.
Sure.
You can use that.
Didn't I just bring this up?
I'm
What
talking
we
about
not gonna do here.
calling them the bridges between your core M's.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, okay. I think you kind of gave the people what they need. So really quick, I like if you want to share that framework again, what you do in your journal, your checklist, and how you're checking in
So
before
my
we.
so I always this is just my system. I challenge people to have a word for your season. If it's for
Mhm.
your year, for your quarter, for your week, for your month. From there, have a phrase that means something to you. So for instance, 2023, I put as my three statements, my sophomore year of high school, that's when I played my best basketball. Most
Mhm.
people are like,
Wait,
it
you
wasn't
said
your senior.
2023. I
And
thought you
no,
said.
I'm saying in
Oh,
2023, this is what I wrote in my
oh,
journal.
okay, got it. I was like, "Wait,
I I
you're not
wrote
that
my
young."
I girl, please, I'm 21. So so I wrote my sophomore year of high school. That's when I played my best basketball.
Yeah.
Most people are like, wasn't your senior? I was like, no, it's my sophomore year.
Mhm.
Secondly, what I wrote down was every opportunity is the last opportunity.
I like it and there's pressure, but some people respond well.
It's what I needed. I'm a competitor.
Okay, so that
I'm not
works
an
for you.
obsessive so I'm a competitor. But I also wrote down three manifestations. One was I will have joy.
Mhm.
Number one. Number two was what did I say? I will earn over six figures.
Okay.
The third one was I will be out of consumer debt. So about halfway through the year, I wrote these every day in 2023.
Yes.
Halfway through the year, I changed my phrase simply to I am joy.
Yep.
I am earning.
Yes.
I am out of.
Yes.
So what do you think happened at the end of 2023?
All of those things happen because you became them. It's going into every fiber of your being. When you write that power of writing is so important because one, you thought it, right? Second, I don't know about you, but when I think, I hear, right? Without any external thing. So we think it, we hear it. You're seeing it because you visualizing it, right? Then you're writing it, which also means you're reading it. And you're hearing it again because as I'm writing, I be thinking it, right? And then you're also reflecting. Like it's sinking in, it's processing in your body, your brain takes all that in. And then it is like seeps into even like just like the cells of your body and everything moves to make those things happen where you might forget. You're not even, like, actively thinking about it, but you've already given your body, your brain, the instructions. This is what we doing, and this is how powerful our brain is.
Allow me to apologize and correct my English. I said, guess what? Did I say guess what happened? I think I may have said guess what happened at the end of the year. Guess what he did for me
I like
at
that.
the end
Come
of
on,
the year.
Glory. Come on, Glory. Give it to him.
It wasn't because I'm that sweet.
He
I
heard
wrote the
you.
vision and made it plain. You go into the word now, write the vision, make it plain. Or
Yes.
you could even go to Proverbs 16, verses 3. Commit thy thoughts commit thy work to the Lord, and thy thoughts should be established, right? We can do
Mhm.
any of that, right? And I'm saying that with that, I literally allowed myself to submit.
That surrender. That's so important.
The song doesn't say I surrender some. It says I surrender all. So I surrendered it all to him. How I was feeling, because I said I will have joy. Like, bruh, you've had joy. You just didn't recognize it,
Mhm.
right? Was it common to say it don't take a whole day to recognize sunshine? I was like, bro, you got joy. You are joy. You look joy in the mirror every day. You are joy.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
are joy. Even on your saddest day, you are joy
Yeah.
because he is joy. We're a reflection of him. So when I say require, return, reward, I make sure I don't overload myself on what I feel like I have to do. It's
Shouldn't on
required.
yourself. Mhm.
Yeah, it's required. Like, what's required? Okay, is it my day to make dinner? Okay, got to make dinner or get dinner. Either I got to make it or go get it.
People gotta eat.
Re- Return. It's like, okay, what energy am I going to give to the world? Not expecting anything necessarily in return, but at some point it will come back.
I love that
And
because
how will I reward myself?
some people think that that return might be like return on investment, and you're like, "No, how am I giving back?" I
Yep.
love that.
And the last one is reward.
Mhm.
How will you reward yourself for the day? Some days it's just like, you know what? Like today, it's early bedtime, right?
What's early
And
bedtime?
early bedtime for me, which is really going to be much like it's before 9:45.
Okay.
At least I'm in the bed. I'm in the bed. No phone, no book, just in the bed.
Mhm. Mhm.
And last 90 minutes. So my last 90 minutes would be mobility, meditation, maybe write out how did I feel throughout the day? And
Mhm.
here's a prompt if anybody wants to use it. There's two questions
Excellent.
you can ask yourself on any given day. Number one, When you wake up in the morning, simply write. And I only give myself a half a page to write each day so I don't get long with it on purpose because I
Mm,
want to get to the point. I say, what do you know? Like today, what do you know? I don't care what it is. Doesn't matter. What do you know?
mhm,
The question at the end of the day is, what did you learn
mhm,
about yourself, about others?
mhm. Period.
And it's just interesting. As I get brainstorms, I write them there. If I hear something that I really liked, or if it's a powerful question that I feel like I need to ask my clients more, ask myself more, ask my students or my friends, or some days it's
Mhm,
just taking a walk down memory lane.
mhm.
Or just some days it's literally I mean, listen, look, okay, literally, this is January 28th, 2025. I feel like I try to make my life an almanac in some way, shape, or form. This was
Now, we grew up in a different era. Some of our listeners and viewers may not know what an almanac
an
is.
almanac. Okay, if okay, so Dr. J, your birthday is coming up April 13th.
It
You
is.
So if we wanted to know who was born, who died, what the stock market did on April 13th, 1972, 1964, 1913, we could find out what
Come on,
happened on April 13th,
1913.
1913,
Yes.
right? That has a significance to you for so many reasons. We
Mhm.
could find out. And so what I'm saying is a lot of times people say, well, yo, I forgot. I said, nah. And I tell my students now because I'm really trying to get them to get to a place where they realize, and research shows that when we write things down, we're 42% more likely to execute them or remember them.
Go ahead. Drop them
Right?
stats.
That's research.
Yep.
Don't argue with me, argue with the
Yep.
research. So on January 20th, 2025, here were some of my closing thoughts. My PM mood was a smiley face. And I said dinner was a hit according to the family. Um,
I wanna know what was on the menu, but
I
that's
don't
me
I
separate.
yeah, okay.
I'm a foodie.
Here's what's interesting. Here's one thing I said to myself in my journal.
Mm.
Today I feel seen, heard, valued, and appreciated.
Yes, that's such a wonderful feeling and experience.
I also said momentum is an elixir we must sip before we embody mastery.
Okay, Elixir.
That was random. I just happened to open
Mhm.
it up.
Mhm.
So I don't even know where that last thing came from.
Listen, but that's how God shows up. I went back, I sent my line sister a photo. Hold on, let me find this because this how God be working. And a big this podcast is about giving God the glory, right? So
Mhm.
she went with me to the continent. So we spent like all of December on the continent and oh shoot, where
I'm
is it?
jealous, by the way.
Hey, don't
I'm
have to
going
be
at some
the
point.
continent is wide open. So so I wrote this in my journal on November 21st, right? Didn't tell anybody because what's in there is between, just me and God, unless it comes up like I'm about to share now.
For
And we
sure.
were together. Obviously, this was a spiritual experience because my trip started out, it was just supposed to be me graduating or celebrating my completion of my doctorate. And then God was the one that told me to book my flight for December. Like I was going by myself, but I, opened it up to people. She decided she was going to come. And then it turned into, well, you know what? I don't want to just go to the continent and take, I want to give back. So let me add some service in at each country where I'm visiting. And then my minister comes up to me and he was like, "Baby girl, you trying to take some Bibles with you?" That's not his exact words, but he was like, "What you be open to?" And I was like, "Absolutely." So then it turns into a mission trip. So I thought it was about me celebrating. Then I was like, "Let me give back." And then it was like, "And you about to spread the good news." But so she and I, we talk a lot about our beliefs, our faith, and we got closer on this trip too. And so at the end of the trip, she said, "God told me to tell you something." He said, "Give him 6 months and, shoot, what's the scripture? To be anxious for nothing, but through prayer and
And all things
supplication." Yep.
prayer, supplication, yep.
"Make your request known to God." Is that in Ephesians 4:6? Something. I'll look it up.
Sounds right.
But so she's telling me this. This is a month after I've written this, and I went back. God took me to a page because He will take us where He wants us to be to
I
see
just
the
looked at
alignment. I flipped to this page, and it said, "I wrote my life will look completely different in 6 months." Now let me see if I can read this. You've made, oh my goodness, you've made such dramatic changes in my life in 5 months. I know that this is just the warm up. I had written it, forgot I wrote it. She tells me a month and something later, and then it pops back up on March 13th that I'm on this page. Like, God's just reminding me. Because even when she said it to me, I was like, yeah, that's because I tricked off the first 6 months in 2024, trying to heal, not really trying to heal, but not just like surrendering to Him. Right. And so I love that it's here, it's written. So, like, when you said that's the almanac, you have those things to go back to and like to really see and track and see how He really do be moving and working. And the way He's moved and worked, if I was not keeping a written journal of these things,
Yeah.
it's
Let me
easy
share
to
one more.
forget. Go ahead.
Let me share something from the very next day,
Okay.
January 29th,
Mm.
2025. My PM mood was smiley face. I said, yesterday was a reminder of what delaying fun and connecting with people and taking care of self can do for my confidence.
Mm.
I don't know where that came from, but I recollected all of the events of the day,
I would
and that
encourage
was
you to
what I got.
maybe expand beyond your half a page. And I get why you have it, right? That can help with the consistency and maintaining the habit because there are things you could be repeating. So, as simple as that dinner being a hit, your family giving you that feedback, and if you remember what it is, you can do that again, and they can feel seen, heard, understood, and valued that, "Dad listened. My husband listened." You know what I mean? And did the
Yeah,
thing, we like this, and we know that he does it because we like it, right? And so, even with that, whatever you experience in that day, these are things we can replicate.
right. And even as we track our wins, biggest wins from January 2025, documented all 31 days in January.
Mhm,
Finished Relentless by Tim Grover for the second time.
mm,
Wrote my manifestations daily.
mhm,
Stuck to dry January and a plant-based diet.
mhm,
Got myself back into a rhythm fitness, walked 83.2 miles.
mhm.
Prioritized quality rest consistently. Connected with people in real time and spoke for Bowie State and Howard University. Booked flights for vacation and submitted my PTO.
Listen, and to a lot of people, they're like, yo, that's my year. He did that in a month. But that's what that intentionality with you're taking that time for yourself in the morning and the evening. Those things are really important. So I think this is a good transition to segue so that we can spend some time on meditation because these are all things that go together. And with this, I
Mhm.
do want to ground this in a couple of scriptures, right? Because there is biblical foundation that supports meditation. So we have Joshua chapter 1 verse 8. Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you may be prosperous and successful. This is essentially what you're talking about too, writing your manifestations too, and
Mhm.
that it's there with you. So then prosperous, successful, right? So this tells you the benefits of meditation. Obviously, this is in the Old Testament, so they're talking about like the law of Moses. But we can apply this as well to our daily lives. And then the other scripture is Psalms 46:10. And this one says, because the thing about meditation, right, is that like we're in a quiet space, we're settled, we're eliminating distractions, right? And I believe like with meditation, it opens up a space for like deeper intimacy with God, for Him to communicate with us how He needs to communicate with us, right? Because I think it's unique and individual because He created us. We're each uniquely and wonderfully made, right? And He knows how to communicate with us. And so this one, I think a lot of people do know. He says, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth," right? So this highlights the importance of that stillness. So, with that in mind, how do you practice like stillness and meditation? And like, what recommendations would you give to others to incorporate this into their daily spiritual practices?
Again, we've been programmed since the time we were born to move and do. I meditate daily. It ranges from 5 to 10 minutes, depending on where I am. I used
Mhm.
to meditate with meditation music. Now I meditate in complete silence
And that's a beautiful progression.
because sometimes we feel like we have to have a certain noise to get in rhythm or alignment.
Mhm.
I'm a runner. 6 years ago,
Mhm.
I stopped running with headphones in my ears.
Mhm.
And there are even certain days I'm in the gym, I don't put earbuds in my ears. I was like,
Mhm.
dude, unless, if I'm listening to a podcast or something, but like in terms of music, I was like, bro, you don't need it. Like if people are like, well, yo, I gotta have my music. Like,
Mhm.
no, you need to move. You
Mhm.
think that it's a conditional agreement, but
I
I
like that.
meditate in silence. And one
Mhm.
thing I said I would do this year, no matter where I am in the universe, and it's a challenge for any and everybody. You don't have to do this, but I even challenged my students. I said, you know what? Find one thing you can do every day that costs you no money and very little time. Every day I watch the sunrise, whether it's raining, sleeting, snowing, or hailing. Like I don't care where I am. Some days I'm in the gym and I'll stop and I'm working, but I'm making sure that because the windows at my gym face east. So
Yeah.
I'm like, boom, I make sure I take, my little break or okay, I'm watching the sunrise. But what I'm saying is most people don't realize, and this is why it's again, every day we begin. Because guess what? Most people don't know until they watch it. Every day I watch the sun, it has not risen in the same place ever.
No, it doesn't. And I know that from my morning, like, wogs, as I call them, because 'cause they're more walking than jogging, but,
Sure. But it's a beautiful thing. I say God is the most
yes,
beautiful artist ever known to
ever.
man, woman, and beast.
Mhm.
Because when even as I watch sunsets, right? I love watching sunsets. But again, that comes from my parents being people watchers or those they say as a kid, you know what, baby, best things in life are free. And they certainly are.
Mhm.
And to watch the sunrise. And again, you don't have to be this namaste with if you can just enjoy the quiet of yourself
No
for
matter
3
where you
minutes,
are.
4
Mhm.
minutes, 1 minute, just take a moment and listen to yourself. Breathe. You can be. And again, I challenge people, if you think you got ADHD, okay, fine. We all do to some degree, and it's a badge of honor. We have so many things distracting us. Who it's hard to maintain your focus. Start
Mhm.
over 30 seconds. Like
Yeah,
if
start
you
somewhere.
breathe deeply for 30 seconds, it's a beautiful thing.
But even in that, you're doing something still, right? Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it helps me. It helps me be.
Mhm. And I know another tool that and what I love too when you were talking about, like, your progression when you started with music because sometimes it creates the environment. It eliminates the typical distractions, right? So it's a signal, like you said, like the conditional, did you say conditional relationship, conditional connection? What was the word you used?
It's a conditional behavior. Like you
Yes.
feel like it has to be this condition in order for me to have.
And it
This has to
starts
be in order for me to have.
yes. You said a different word, but I like the way you said it. But yes, sometimes we do need to create the environment to reinforce the behavior and then hope to progress to just having the behavior and not needing this conditional portion of it. But I didn't realize that I was doing a form of it in the morning. I love the daily refresh in the Bible app.
Mhm.
And when you get to, like, that 3rd part where you're, like, the prayer and spending time with God, there's they have the little play button at the bottom, and it does create, like, the small like, it gives you nice little soft music. It can be like a piano, whatever. I enjoy
Mhm.
that, and I remember when I first started doing them, some of them would tell you to breathe, right? And I would do it. And now even if they don't tell me to breathe, I breathe a few minutes and I start talking to God before I even read like the script and the prompts. And I save the different prayers that they put in there too and add those prayers. And so then I'm doing like 5 prayers before I get to the end because it'll show you random ones if you add them. But saying this carved out this time and then I would look up sometimes and I'm like, yo, I've been on this for 30 minutes.
Mm.
But it doesn't even feel like it, but it just feels good, and there's one particular piano rhythm that they have that I love, that when I hear it, it instantly puts me at ease and brings kinda like a peace where I'm like, "Yes." And I go into giving God glory, and I just go into talking to him about whatever's on my heart, so that's a tool, I still use it, but I do that plus. And when it's a regular rhythm, and like you said with your grandfather, like it's organic. It was just a conversation. And so these practices, whatever tools you're using, whether you're starting with music, starting at 30 seconds, like you just have to build it up and then it becomes organic and it takes on a life of its own. The language becomes natural for you, right? Like where it's organic now for me to talk about God, to thank God, bring him into everything, right? Like I don't even know, well, it depends on the space where I'll acknowledge him, but yeah, I mean, pretty much everywhere now that I'm just like, "Oh, thank you, God. Oh, Father, thank you." Like, "What we eating for breakfast today?" Like, talk to him about everything. And so I think people can even take those things for granted, or they're worried about, like you said, I don't profess to hear actual voices, right? Because you don't want people to think that you're hallucinating.
No, not no. I mean, I don't believe I was blessed with that particular spiritual gift. Now I've been blessed
Oh,
with others, but like I said,
but
I
the voice
don't.
of God is different.
It is, but that's what I'm saying. I can't
Mhm.
tell you if it's a man or woman. I just heard a voice. I don't
Uh-huh.
know. I just know it was nobody within 5 feet of me,
Yeah.
and it was as plain as day. Like
Yep.
it was like somebody was standing right next to me, and I was like,
Had you had that experience before?
never.
Okay. So that was your first time. Has it happened since?
Yes,
Okay. Okay. Because I think once it happens once and you register it, you get more comfortable with it. And sometimes, and it's so clear. It's so
yeah.
clear. Um, I don't know if everyone can or gets to hear him that way, right? Because he communicates to us all differently. But I would love it if everyone could, because I know what it feels like, felt like anytime I've heard him like that, you know? Eh,
Sometimes he speaks to us retroactively through other people.
oh yeah. I be getting that all the time too. Like, okay, got it, got the message,
Yeah, and not
received.
even necessarily what people say, but what people did. I remember more about what my grandparents did. I
Mm,
remembered a lot of what they said,
mhm.
but I remember more what they did and how they did it
Okay.
in spirit and truth and as authentically as they could have. My grandfather, George Sr., the original Coach Rice, may he rest in peace. Boy, I miss you, man. He used to say, he said, man, you don't eat because you're hungry. You eat to keep from getting hungry. You can apply that to your life however you want.
Uh-huh. Being
You
fed.
don't eat because you're hungry. You eat to keep from getting hungry, but that's all about maintenance.
There you go. I love how you brought that back around full circle. Okay. So, wow. That was so good. That was so good in there. Any last comments on meditation or journaling, prayer, how they all connect together in your opinion before I take us out of here?
What I said to my students at Morgan State last night, your system, your results.
Love it. And no
Simple.
judgment. Make it what it needs to be for you. I love that
Your
so
system,
much.
your results. And
Okay.
one thing I used to say to students, even I say to them now, they'll look at their grades, they're like, man, I did terrible. I said, wait a second. First of all, what we're not going to do is beat ourselves up.
Right.
That's what we're not going to do. Right.
Mhm.
Number two, I always ask them two questions. I said, okay, are you happy with the result? And they'll
Mhm.
say no. I said, are you happy with the work that you put in to get the result you got?
Right, the preparation.
And they're like, well, no, I'm happy with the work up. And I said, okay,
You
you
did
know,
your best.
you did the you did you let go of something, you got a hold of something, you did something you had never done before, and you got a result that you didn't necessarily expect or desire. But if you have no regrets about the work,
I love how you frame that. It removed the judgment because everyone does the good or bad. Is it proper? Is it right? Is it wrong? Like these polarities, right? Like, and then if I'm not this, then I'm that, which can cause people so much stress. Okay, well, again, Coach Rice, thank you so much for being here today, dropping these gems. We got the triple R's, we got the triple M's with the subset of the twin M's. You know, we got all the things going on here. So, if you could leave our audience with one powerful truth to help them rise and thrive, what would it be?
in the words of the Winans, millions didn't make it, but I'm one of the ones who did. Now, they talk about it as if they're already in heaven,
Mhm.
but I always say every day we see, we couldn't have bet our last 50 cents that we would see it.
Mm.
So when people say, hey, man, how you feeling? Look, man, millions didn't make it, but I'm one of the ones who did. So clearly I got something to do. Or I need to be somewhere and to be someone. And to rise and thrive, I feel like that's the mantra. Millions didn't make it, but I did. So who am I going to be today? Who do I need to be today?
Mhm.
And when you find out who you need to be, he will lead you to serve whoever you need to serve.
Yeah. And what came to me when we say need to be is just like who I was created to be, essentially. Yeah. All right. Thank you again so much.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
appreciate
To the audience, it's time for reflect, action, and affirm. So, for your reflection question, which of these practices do you currently engage in, and which one do you want to strengthen? Okay. So, that's your unofficial homework, but to reflect so that you too can rise and thrive. And then the next step is taking action. We want you to set aside 10 minutes today to either journal, meditate, or pray, right? Like Coach Rice said, your system. You can do it how you want to. You want to do a combination of them. You want to do what you need to do. As long as you do it, take those 10 minutes for yourself. You're worth it, and you will never regret investing in yourself and pouring in. And finally, I'm going to leave you with an affirmation. I create space for God daily, knowing that in stillness, writing, and prayer, I grow closer to Him. All right. So thank y'all again for tuning in for another episode of Rise and Thrive with Dr. J. Nicole, where we are rising in faith and thriving in purpose. And want to give one last thanks to our special guest, Coach George Rice. Where can the people find you if they want to stay connected? If they're like, man, he was dropping those gems, like where can the people get some more touch points, be fed a little bit more?
Please, if you find in our rivalry, please add me on LinkedIn. It is simply Coach George Rice the Third.
All right. So LinkedIn, Coach, I was going to say Coach. Let me tell you the real funny story. I told you my family's country. I was raised by my great aunt, and there were certain words that she could not. Oh, that was her coming through. See the ancestors.
Coach.
She would say Coach. Yeah, and electricity, but it was Coach. Auntie Marlene just came through in that moment. So that's so interesting. But yes, Coach George Rice III on LinkedIn. Stay tuned, stay in touch. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.